Okay, I want to start by defining the term transpersonal. I believe most of you are acquainted with the term. However, I'm going to define the term. And when we talk about transpersonal psychology and transpersonal psychiatry, would be more accurate to talk about a transpersonal approach. Transpersonal don't need necessarily to be an approach exclusively to psychology and psychiatry, but it's also to medicine, to biology, to astronomy, and very specifically to modern physics. You see, the word transpersonal is composed of two words, trans and personal. And trans, you know, is, means going beyond. Personal is related to the person, to the persona, to the individual. So all types of psychology and the psychiatry treat the human being, the man and woman, like an individual per se, or like an individual in society in relation to the environment, but always like more or less a separated entity of everything else. We know that all sciences, medicine, biology, psychology, psychiatry, etc., they are based in classical physics, in Newtonian physics. We know that Newtonian physics has its own philosophy, which is the Cartesian philosophy. In the Cartesian philosophy, we have a very sharp separation between what Descartes called spirit and matter. And you know very well the famous phrases of Descartes, je pense donc je suis, that I think, then I am, or then I exist. Now, when you analyze the sentence of Descartes, when he says I, je pense, I, he is referring, who is this really, who is this I? So in reality, he is referring to an image which he has of himself, which is what in psychology we call the self-image, or the person you believe you are. Like a mirror, you're saying that is me. Leo or Peter or John or this or that. Now, when you refer to this image is somehow and more or less conceptually isolated of everything else. Let's see if I can move it to make something here. I try. Let's suppose this is a person. We could say this is Descartes, for example. And when he say, je pense, I, or in Swedish, I think you write like that. No, yeah, is that Swedish? So you refer to an image which you have of yourself, and this image has this basic characteristic of being separated conceptually of everything else. You have images of other people, image of trees, of cars, everything. Now, one of the basic postulates of Newtonian physics on describing the universe is saying that this universe is composed by almost infinity of separated objects obeying fundamental laws. Now, you see, Newton, he talked about separated objects, and we can agree with Newton. We look around, say, I am here, you are here, and here is my watch, there's a book, there's a tape recorder, outside there is a car. So you can count, or almost not count, so many objects. And you look to yourself, and you can say, here I am, and here is a world in front of me. Or you can say, I am inside the world, and there we are many people, many objects, many things. Okay, today, with the latest developments of modern physics, or to be more precise, high-energy physics, all postulates of classical Newtonian physics do not apply any longer to high energy physics. While Newton describes the universe like a almost infinity of separated objects, in high energy physics, the universe is described like one gigantic dynamic web. So what does this mean? So it means that everything, I use, the air, the ground, the stars, the cars, the trees, the roads, the flowers, the clouds, everything in reality is a dynamic pattern of energy which is moving. So that is the statement of high energy physics. So when you come to this point, so you start not to see the universe any longer as separated objects, but you start to see a connection, which really is a connection with everything, and everything is dynamic and moving. So this image which I create of myself, the I, or the ego. Remember, I'm not saying the ego here in the Freudian sense. I'm saying just translating the iade to Latin, ego. This ego is a convention that we have created to function in this society here. And more or less everything which we experience, what we have experienced, is reflected in this image. Now, the question would be, what would happen if we would be able to go beyond this image? I mean, not just intellectually, but existentially. So if you would go, if you would transcend this image, you remember the word transcend is coming from Latin. Transcendo means climbing over. So if you're climbing over this concept or this convention that you have, if you would be able to do that, so you would attain a state of consciousness, a experience which is described by modern physics. So you would sense it, you would feel, you would experience these patterns of energy. So you would get a feeling which was described in the end of this century by maybe one of the first transpersonal psychologists, was William James, which he calls the experience of oneness. You feel one with everything. He calls it also the cosmic consciousness. Very often, you think that you are in Sweden. And I could go, well, you are not really in Sweden. You are in the cosmos, aren't you? If you really expand your view, you are in the cosmos all the time, but you close yourself, let's say, to a country, to a city, to a hospital, to an image of yourself. It's like being part of everything, and somehow I start to shrink like that. So, what transpersonal psychology is doing is very specifically studying states of consciousness, both which happen in this level, which we can call the level of the individual psychology, as well as in the level which transcend these limitations imposed by the image which we have of each one of us. So when you transcend this, you enter what is called a transpersonal experience. Before going into the, I'll tell a little story about the transpersonal psychology and I will stop. But I just want to point out to you what is the meaning when you think in psychotherapeutic terms. What is the meaning of going into a transpersonal experience? What is that for? Why you would facilitate a person to have this state of consciousness? Now, if you think again that you are here in Sweden, right now you are in the planet Earth, You are in the solar system, you are in the universe. In terms of modern physics, you cannot even say that you are inside of the universe or outside. You cannot even say, it would be absurd in terms of high energy physics to say that you are part of the universe. Would it be more correct to say that you are the universe? This is not psychology, this is physics. Since everything is just one pattern, your individuation, being an individual, is something, if you look at this at the cosmic level, and if you are able to abstract time out of that, so you are just this, so you appear and disappear in this, you can call it mixture of matter energy, inter and interacting all the time. Now, if the universe is flowing energy, so your natural state of health, your natural state of body and mind would be flowing, would be accepting the transformation with what is happening in your body all the time. Like, for example, death and dying. When we talk about death, we think about something in the future. Most people, they either say they have repressed the idea of death, and they say, well, I don't want to talk about that. Or if they talk about that, to them something very vague in the future. This kind of death doesn't exist, really, except in your own fantasy. The only death which is real is the one which is happening here now. Death is not in the future, it's here now. Your body's dying right now. Cells are dying in your body. New cells are being born. This is the physical level. If you look in the emotional level, also you're going to see transformations. In the mental level, everything is flowing energy. Now, when I get caught in the belief that I am this image of myself, you see, I believe I am the image, so I limit myself. So I start to live in a level which I would call the Cartesian Newtonian level of reality, of total separateness. And I don't want you misunderstand that I'm trying to deny this level. This level is very, very, very important. Because we experience this reality like everything is separated, is that we are able to live and somehow to survive in this society. So in the morning when you awake, you know who you are supposed to be. You are the doctor, you also is bus driver, you also is the engineer, or whatever you are. So you can function in this society. But when I get caught in this idea that that is all, so I limit myself. When I limit myself, so what I'm doing, I'm blocking myself. It's like when you tense your body. If you can try this, you tense your body. If you let it tense for very long, you start to get pain. You may get sick if you do that. So this can be one of ways of getting sick. And when conceptually I block, so this reflects also in my body and in all my system. If you want to divide it between psychological and physical system, in whole, my organism is affected. And what happens in reality is that I am entering in a state of disharmony with the whole process of this universe, which is just flowing. So you see, it's a dissonance between what I call I and the whole cosmos and this whole pattern of energy. So I isolate myself here, I alienate myself, I start to get afraid of people. Who is this people here now? What they are thinking about me? Am I performing well now? Do they understand what I start to shrink, which is one approach to life. So in those approaches say, well, we are here now. Okay? That's one level of reality, which is very important. And there's another level also, and they exist simultaneously. So the meaning of bringing a person, I don't like very much to use the word patient because of the Latin origin of patient, which has to do with passivity. I call patient a person. When you bring a person into other levels of awareness, what happens, to put it in very simple terms of energy, the person starts to unblock energy which was repressed. If you want to put it in another context, so you can say that traumatic situations, trauma is nothing else but pain which has been kept inside you, which you experience subjective, like a kind of negative energy which has a self-destructive power. So when you move away from this, you transcend this image, or you move to another level of consciousness, so you start to unblock the energy which have been blocked. Now, there are hundreds of techniques to do that, and I don't think we have time today to talk about these techniques. I want just to use a couple of minutes more to tell you about the history of transpersonal psychology. When we talk about transpersonal psychology, it's nothing new in reality. When we talk in psychology in the West, we have many people have a kind of I would call superior attitude, say, oh, only we know, only we are civilized. So in transpersonal psychology, we try to be open, let's say panoramic, open-minded, and we see any psychology which has existed in a cross-cultural and historical context as a psychology to be studied. So let's say the psychology of the pre-Columbian civilizations in America, the shamanistic psychologists, the Tibetan psychology, the Hinduist psychology, the Christian psychology. So then for us, religion is not religion anymore. It's just a system of psychology which can be studied, and eventually you can use something of that system and techniques which can be integrated into a psychotherapeutic context. So transpersonal psychology is nothing new, but in the West, this was systematized like a body of knowledge, and one of the pioneers is Dr. Ronald Lange, and he is the first one who uses the term transpersonal, which is in one of his books called The Politics of Experience, which was published in '66. And the other founders of this school of psychology and psychiatry are Abraham Maslow and Anton Suchich and Stanislaw Grof. The first journal of transpersonal psychology was published in the United States in the autumn of '69. We had the first Congress of Transpersonal Psychology in 1972 in Iceland, and from '72 until now, in 1982, we have had 6 congresses already. Congresses which are attended not only by psychologists and psychiatrists, but very much by high-energy physicists, by biologists, and people of different professions, different scientists gathering together, making possible the emergence of a new paradigm in science. And it's like psychology has been some 50 or 60 years behind physics. And now what we are trying to do with transpersonal psychology is caught up with physics. So now on Sunday, we are starting our 7th International Congress of Transpersonal Psychology. It's going to be in Bombay. We have had it in different places of the world, in the United States, in Australia. And we are expecting more than 1,000 people from all over the world attending this Congress. So I want to finish now and give the word to Dr. Lange.